Look at the state we're in. Or a party political broadcast on behalf of the British public.
Once upon a time, in a small industrial town in a country quite unlike our own, there lived a young man called Frank. Frank was born with an honest, trusting nature. His childhood was secure and contented. He grew up believing that his parents were the best of all possible parents, his hometown the most pleasant imaginable, and his country the freest and most democratic in the entire world. One warm and pleasant April morning, Frank's mother contracted bubonic plague and died within the hour. That same afternoon, a meteorite struck the family home, incinerating the house and his father, and leaving Frank singed and half naked. These events attracted the attention of the press. Where the press lead, politicians soon follow, and it was not long before Frank found himself the subject of a photo opportunity.
Shake hands, 2, 3, cry, 2, 3, grateful smile, 2, 3. Come on, keep it sad, keep it sad.
I've always wanted to meet a real mayor.
Mayor?
As luck would have it, his visitor was no mayor, but the democratically elected ruler of the entire country. The ruler, charmed by Frank's innocence and in urgent need of a fresh young face to adorn the elderly facade of his regime, invited him to return with him to the capital.
For had my mother not died of the plague and my father been hit by a meteorite, then I would never have had the chance to meet with you, sir, which just goes to prove that all is for the best in this best of all possible democracies.
Yes, of course. Well, now you're here, we'd better find you a job. Ever done any reshuffling?
I'm sorry?
Ministers to go on the left, chaps on the right get promoted to cabinet. Off you go.
Shouldn't we consult Parliament?
No need. You've never heard of the royal prerogative?
No.
Are we the wisest people in the world?
Absolutely.
So when we elect members of Parliament, we elect only wise and public-spirited men.
Of course.
And when those wise men elect a ruler, what kind of ruler would they choose?
A wise one.
Ergo, it follows that my policies are by definition wise and public-spirited. Now, some of those policies I enact through legislation, but others I'm entitled to enforce through...
The royal prerogative.
An ancient and sensible right.
Which enables you to take certain necessary decisions.
Without troubling our overworked parliamentarians.
That same evening, young Frank, at the behest of his wise ruler, ended the political careers of 7 troublesome cabinet ministers and replaced them with 7 men and women more soundly committed to the ruler and thus, of course, to the cause of wise government. And as the weeks passed and more appointments and dismissals came and went, Frank discovered that a little obedience can take a young man a long way in the business of government.
Have you got your eye on anything for yourself?
For myself, good heavens, no, sir.
I mean, you seem a loyal, gullible sort of chap. Don't fancy being a bishop, do you?
I'm sorry?
The Bishop of Bellington finally snuffed it, thank God. I need a replacement.
You appoint bishops?
Afraid, sir. Dreary business comes with the job. You're not a Christian, are you?
Yes.
Oh, damn. Whatever else you say about Christians, they make lousy bishops. Very negative in attitude, particularly when it comes to ethics. Well, if you don't fancy a bishopric, I'll have to find you something else. Let me see. High Court Judge, Regius Professor of Dentistry, the Arts Council. Governor of Hong Kong, Chairman of the Whitefish Authority. Not a lot of money in that. How about a ministry? A couple of years in the cabinet, and you can resign and move on to a merchant bank.
The cabinet? I'm not even an MP.
Aren't you? Yeah, we'll have to give you a peerage then. Same difference. Take this round to the palace and she'll fix you up. Oh, and while you're at it, we'll make my son-in-law ambassador to Washington. Now.
And so it was that humble Frank became Baron Simple, Earl of Rothbury, Minister of the Crown, Chancellor of the Duchy without portfolio, Privy Councillor, and Leader of the House of Lords. He chose for his coat of arms the proud motto, "Nanny knows best." One evening, Frank was dispatched by the ruler on a routine errand.
In Venezuela, the gerbil very rarely hunts by night.
But the okapi never leaves home without his postcode. But the system is well known. A businessman, in appreciation of the sound policies pursued by the government, contributes a sum of money to the ruling party. And the ruler, in recognition of the businessman's selfless public service, exercising his powers under the royal prerogative, awards the businessman a peerage. The rates are quite reasonable. I mean, a little higher for the residents of Greece and Hong Kong, but nonetheless.
Worried? My dear Frank, why would I be worried?
Well, I thought, well, there's the press to start off with. There's stories everywhere.
Was, dear boy. Was.
Will there be questions in the House? Demonstrations? Demands for a public inquiry?
Of course there will, of course there will. In fact, I've already appointed, as I'm entitled to do, a totally independent public inquiry. Under no less a person than my own mother. But I'm nonetheless completely confident that she'll find not the slightest trace of wrongdoing on my part.
Thus proving once again the wisdom and importance of the royal prerogative.
Absolutely. Talking of which, I've studied your letter of resignation long and hard.
Letter of resignation? What letter of resignation?
You are, I presume, familiar with the meaning of the word scapegoat.
For the first time in his life, Frank found himself experiencing an emotion that he was later to identify as bitterness.
But I knew you'd understand. You'll be arrested, of course, and tried.
What for?
We'll think of something. My brother, the Attorney General, is working on it now.
Frank was arrested, charged with the corrupt sale of honours, and brought to trial. And then the most undemocratic and unjust thing imaginable happened. There was not a shred of doubt that Frank was guilty. The judge instructed the jury in the most unequivocal terms to convict. But the jury, in a moment of madness, declared Frank innocent. He left the court a free man, but not for long.
You are Baron Simple, Earl of Rothbury?
Yes?
I hereby detain you under...
The royal prerogative.
No, the Prevention of Terrorism Act.
Hold on, I know about that one. You can hold me for 72 hours. Then you've got to let me go.
Oh, no, I don't.
Oh, yes, you do.
Oh, no, I... Do I?
Not if I declare war on someone. Once there's a war, I can do more or less anything. Think of an island.
Any island?
No, somewhere small and not very well defended.
Malta.
Perfect.
You can't just invade Malta. Not without asking Parliament.
Oh, yes, I can. It's part of the royal prerogative.
It's a bit extreme, though, isn't it?
Oh, all right. Here's the deal. I won't declare war, provided you leave the country, never to return.
And so Frank, touched by this final call on his patriotism, went into exile, condemned to spend the rest of his days wandering the earth. And although he visited many countries more prosperous, more generous to their poor, and more contented than his own, he searched in vain for another state with the wisdom and passivity to dispense with constitutions and bills of rights, and rely on that most perfect of all devices, the royal prerogative. You may meet him some day in some country quite unlike our own, and if you do, buy him a cup of tea, tell him the news from home, and raise your cup and drink a toast to the best of all possible worlds, where Nanny, in all circumstances and at all times, knows best.
That was a party political broadcast on behalf of the British public.